sake of time, I know we still have some vendors that are going to be trickling in, but I'm so excited for everybody to be here for our first annual Pulaski County Wellness Conference. Look forward to doing these again in the future. This is something that Melissa and I attended one similar in Springfield last year, and it was a conference we didn't know that we needed. And we wanted to bring it to Pulaski County and invite all of our friends. And so we're so glad you joined us. I know we've got lots of compliments about the first part, and it's about to get better. We've got a great lineup of speakers. Our first speaker is going to be Dr. Deb Frost from Compass Health. Dr. Frost began her tenure with Compass Health in 2001 as a licensed psychologist. In her current role as VP of Corporate Operations, she oversees new contract development, program coordination, community relations, regional expansion, and charitable fundraising for the southern region of Compass Health. In addition, Dr. Frost is responsible for psychology intern and resident supervision and training. Dr. Frost completed her doctorate at West Virginia University and was classically trained in behavioral therapies and geriatric psychology. She completed her doctoral internship at Brockton VA Harvard Medical School and specialized in medical psychology prior to relocating to rural Missouri. She has published in several American Psychological Association texts and periodicals in the area of that's a big word. It's too early in the morning for me. Geropsychology and medical psychology. Please welcome Dr. Deb Frost. Good morning. I'm so excited to be here. Can we give a huge round of applause to the committee that put this fabulous event together and all of our sponsors? They're just amazing. So, this is a great way for me to spend Friday if I get the technology right, and I got a tutorial, but it's not happening. Oh, look at that. I had to aim it at the equipment. Can you imagine that? All right, well, we're going to talk about the easiest thing today, and I'm so excited, mindfulness, which I'm going to tell you is your superpower, and we'll talk about that. Just a real quick search of recent news headlines shows you that mindfulness is being talked about in pretty much every arena. Stressed, depressed, mindfulness could offer long-term relief. Mindfulness helps obese children lose weight and decrease anxiety. The latest in military strategies, mindfulness, right? Fortune 500 companies have figured out one of the best employee benefits they can give someone is training in mindfulness. So, what is mindfulness? I'm going to show you a little video clip, and then we'll talk.
You may have heard this word mindfulness. It's become something of a buzz phrase of late. I'm going to give you one simple, serviceable definition, which is this. Mindfulness is the ability to know what's happening in your head at any given moment without getting carried away by it. Imagine how useful this could be. Just as an example, driving down the road and somebody cuts you off in traffic. How do you normally react? I think most of us, we normally react by having a thought, which is, I'm pissed. And then what happens next? You immediately, habitually, reflexively inhabit that thought. You actually become pissed. There's no buffer between the stimulus and your reaction. With just a little bit of mindfulness, in that same situation, you might notice my chest is buzzing, my ears are turning red, I'm having a starburst of self-righteous thoughts, I'm getting angry. But you don't necessarily have to act on it and chase that person down the road, screaming at them with your kids in the back of the car thinking you've gone nuts. Now, you might be thinking, don't I need to get angry sometimes? Aren't I justified? I would say yes, but probably not as much as you think. The proposition here is not that you should be rendered by mindfulness into some lifeless, non-judgmental blob. The proposition is that you should learn how to respond wisely to things that happen to you, rather than just reacting blindly. And that, my friends, is a superpower. How do you get it? The way to get it is through meditation. I believe that meditation and mindfulness are the next big public health revolution. In the 1940s, if you told somebody you were going running, they would have said, who's chasing you? But then what happened next? The scientists swooped in, they showed that physical exercise is really good for you, and now all of us do it, and if we don't, we feel guilty about it. And that's where I think we're headed with mindfulness and meditation. It's going to join the pantheon of no-brainers like brushing your teeth, eating well, and taking the meds your doctor prescribed for you. Let me just close by saying, Mindfulness is not going to solve all of your problems. It's not going to render your life a nonstop parade of unicorns and rainbows. Nonetheless, this is a superpower, and one that is accessible by you immediately.
Okay, so what's so important about mindfulness is everybody in this room is capable of doing it, and doing it in lots of places. John Kabat-Zinn, the father of mindfulness, defines this as mindfulness is a means of paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. That's a lot to unpack. I think the best way to talk and learn about mindfulness is to practice it. But before we do a quick practice, I wanted to show you, these are all the things that research has supported that mindfulness will bring you. It is free to do. Everybody is capable. You can do it sitting, standing, lying down. And it's sort of like riding a bike. The more you practice it, the better you get. So most kids, start with a tricycle or a bike with training wheels. They have fun, they do okay. Eventually you take those training wheels off and they go down the road and you're like, oh, barely made it. Next thing you know, they're taking the corners. The next thing you know, they want the 10-speed or the dirt bike or the mountain bike, right? So what I would say to you is much like riding a bike. To get most of these benefits, the more you practice mindfulness, the more you will reap the reward. So we're going to practice today, start you off with a mindful moment, and we call it the healing heart exercise. So if you would indulge me, I feel like we all have days and moments when life becomes really hectic, and mindfulness can be a practice to cultivate loving kindness and compassion for humans as we muddle through. This practice today may help you come home to your center to provide a place to rest and recuperate, if only for a few minutes before moving back into the demands of the rest of this day. So I'll ask you to take a moment and place both feet on the floor and arrange yourself comfortably in your chair or your pew. You may have your eyes opened or closed, but gently bring your attention to your breath. Spend a few moments noticing the waves of inhalations and exhalations moving through your body. Each inhalation is an act of nourishment. Each exhalation, a complete letting go. Then allow the breath to settle into your natural rhythm. Out of all the things clamoring for your attention today, bring to mind one that presents a particular struggle for you. Reflect on the situation, its history, the difficulties, how you feel about it, how it affects you. Notice what your mind has to say about it, and what sensations or feelings arise in the body that might feel painful or uncomfortable for you. Or perhaps a sense of numbness is present. Just notice that. Now shift your attention to one of your hands. It doesn't matter which one. Feel the physical properties of that hand. Imagine that this is the hand of someone who cares about you very much, who has no judgments, and who is completely accepting. This is the hand of someone extremely kind and loving. Moving very slowly and gently, place this hand on the part of your body where you experience the most intensity, whether it's physical pain, anxiety, or other feelings associated with the difficult situation you brought to mind. It might be your head, your belly, or your chest, wherever the discomfort or numbness is greatest. If there is no predominant sensation, simply rest your hand in the center of your chest. Now, imagine that this hand is filling with light and warmth, and that this light and warmth are moving into your body, permeating and expanding around this area of discomfort or numbness, causing it to soften, to loosen,
to float in the spaciousness created by the light and the warmth flowing from this kind, caring, compassionate hand. This hand is gently holding whatever may hurt you inside, as if it were a crying child or something infinitely precious and rare. If nothing hurts, then just imagine yourself opening into this warmth like a flower opens in the sun. Now take both hands and shift one to your heart and one to your belly. Use these hands to hold yourself in mercy and feel the support arising from within you, comforting and nourishing and preparing you to move back into the world of activity. When you engage in this practice, as you spend as short or as long as you want, give yourself the gift of compassion, present moment awareness. So if you want to come back, I hope that people are feeling a moment of centeredness, a moment of peace, and a moment of appreciation for this day and what we're about to do together. Because you're going to hear some important messages. Just a tip on mindfulness, you can get videos on YouTube. There's a whole application called Headspace that has great strategies for beginners. And if you like our Compass Health social media pages, we have things out there that are educational all the time. You can like them, use them yourself, and share them with your friends. So I'm going to leave you with this today on mindfulness. Wherever you are, be there totally. I wish you such a great morning and a wonderful weekend to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Frost. Our next speaker is Sean Wilson. He is a provisional licensed professional counselor at Grace Wellness Center. He's a graduate of Webster University with a Master of Arts in Professional Counseling. He is currently a doctoral student pursuing his education specialty degree in community counseling, emphasizing on marriage and family therapy. He has completed multiple certification courses and trainings to support his evidence-based therapeutic approach. He works with clients experiencing PTSD, depression, anxiety, grief, and anger management, as well as group sessions. He's a member of the American Association of Christian Counselors, the American Counseling Association, and the National Anger Management Association. Sean also serves his community as pastor, mayor of Waynesville, the chair of the Pulaski County COAD, Waynesville St. Albert Senior Center board member, and other organizations across the state, which enhances his role as mayor. And he's had quite the week, so what a week for us to talk about resiliency and overall health. Please welcome Sean Wilson.
Very excited about being here today to share on this topic. Let's see if I get this right. There we go. So I want to talk about something that's very important with our mental health is managing our minds. And today I'm going to talk about cognitive distortions. There are 10 cognitive distortions, or basic ones that we have. I'm only going to have time to talk about one. And this is one that I want to help you with a skill or a tool to use to kind of mitigate those feelings. So as I go through this, please bear with me. I had to go get my glasses so I can not still see that. So I'll be looking down here. So all cognitive distortions are tendencies or patterns of thinking or behavior that are false, inaccurate, and have a potential of causing psychological damage. And also, cognitive distortions can also destroy relationships. And that's one of the things that's most important to me is when it starts to affect the relationships that we have with other people and in society, it becomes a real problem. But I want to give you something today that's going to help you to understand a little bit how this works. So as we see here, just picturing this triangle for those that can't see it, at the bottom lower apex, you'll see the word cognition, and that's nothing more than just thinking. At the top, you'll see emotion. And on the bottom right, you'll see behavior. All of these are connected. our cognitions, to our emotion, to our behavior. And I'll give you a quick example. Is the cognition is how we think, what we're thinking about. It can be an image, it can be a memory, it can be something that happened to us that we ponder on. And that space between the cognition and the emotion is where we ponder on our thoughts. Many people may have heard that it's okay to be angry, but just do not sin. Since we're in this place, I'm gonna use that scripture, okay? But when we talk about that, meditating on that anger is what will influence the emotion. And that emotion will then evolve, it could evolve into a behavior, just that we just seen on the video previously. If we think about it, if we think about that information, it can actually cause us to respond a different way as far as an emotion. So I want to talk about jumping to conclusions. Jumping to conclusions is one of the 10 cognitive distortions, but it has 2 subcategories. The first one here is referring to mind reading. Mind reading is the manifestation of an inaccurate belief that we know something that another person has said. So we think we know what people are saying about us by what we see. And a lot of times we could be wrong. And if we would judge things based off of jumping to conclusions, it can create a lot of conflict with other people. It also refers to a negative interpretation of jumping to conclusions, a negative interpretation of that act. I always say if a person speculates, it's never positive. It's usually going to be a negative thought that comes along with that. The next one is fortune telling. To say that we know the outcome of something before it actually happens. Say for instance, someone was a single woman in her 40s, and she would say, I will never meet a man, I will never have a husband, and those things. There's no way that she can honestly say that because she doesn't know everything that's going to happen in the future. So fortune telling is another way that a person could actually cause themselves to spiral down into a period of depression or anxiety of some sort, or depending on what case it is, it could be even anger. But we can also have thoughts of positive as well that will make us happy. So what we fix our mind on can actually dictate our mood. So what I want to do is I want to share with you an account that I have experienced. Good. Just checking my time. All right, so this is an example of a text message that was received. For those that cannot see that, it says, the text message that was sent, I don't feel well today. Can you please pick up my check for me from my job? The response, sorry to hear that. Do they know that I will pick it up? Here, there was not a response for 5 minutes. This is the follow-on response. Forget it. You help everyone else, but you do not help me. Don't call me or contact me anymore. That was the last response. And what I wanted to share with that is what happened. What did we see happen? What caused that person to say, forget it. Don't ever call me again. You help everybody else except me. And that's why I want to talk about this cognitive distortion today, about jumping to conclusions. And I want to give you a tool on how to verify this, if this information is actually true, so you don't take yourself down the spiral. And we see that this comment has now severed a relationship because they jumped to conclusions. They acted on the way that they felt. This actually happened, by the way. So one of the skills that we can use is called examining the evidence. Examining the evidence. And what I mean by examining the evidence is just a skill to be able to look at the thought, and we know that her thought was, forget it, you help everybody else, but you won't help me, don't ever contact me again. That is her thought. So now she is in a position to where she doesn't want to communicate with the other person, and she stops this communication. So what we can do is we can take a piece of paper and we could write down the evidence of the thought and the evidence against the thought. So we want to validate if it's true or not. And then you would draw a line down, and I'm going to give you an example of some possible reasons that this person may believe this is because this has happened to them before. When I say that, a past experience ended up bad, like someone didn't want to help her, so she assumes that this is still happening in this relationship. So this has happened to me before. When people question, they're trying to get out of helping me. So she came to her own conclusion based off of a past experience. The other reason, they were making excuses because they was asking questions. That's the only two I can come up with. Now here, when we say the evidence for or against that thought, they have helped me before. So we have to ask ourselves the questions. Is this a true statement? Do they not care about me? The questions I would say is, has this person ever helped me before? Yes, they have. Let me write that down. They have helped me before. Did they leave me on red? I learned that from some of the younger ones. Did they not answer my text? Did they see it and didn't respond? No, they saw it and they respond. Okay, I can write that down as, so I'm discounting the thought of they don't care. So if we don't actively do this, we could actually lead ourselves down this path of where we'll have some issues and actually lose relationships. Also, they expressed concern for her health because it was like, I'm sorry that you feel that way. The other one is they answered the text. They responded. So with that being said, I want to share that today is one way that you can actually examine the way that you feel based off of a conversation or a thought. You always want to examine the evidence. See if it even is true, because a lot of times it's not true. Just real quick, what we feel is real. I got 50 seconds left and I'm gonna spit this out. I was out running one day, out in the woods over in Fort Leonard Wood. I came up and I seen something that looks like an ear in the woods. Had nothing around me. My anxiety increased. I started sweating, looking for something to protect myself. But then as I got closer, I found out it was a log. But guess what? Those feelings was real. Just because the feeling's real doesn't mean the situation is. Thank you for your time today, and I hope that you would start examining the evidence. And don't believe everything you see until you examine it. Even what we see can be wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Before we move on to our next speaker, I do want to make sure I hadn't thanked our sponsors yet. Our presenting sponsor, of course, was the Pulaski County Health Center. Our gold sponsor was the Phelps Marys County Health Department. Silver sponsor was Security Bank of Pulaski County. Our bronze sponsor was Waypoint United Methodist Church. They've provided the beautiful building we're able to host this in, among other things. And our book sponsor, Alles Acres Arnie out of Springfield. So this couldn't have happened without them. So if everybody can give them a round of applause. And proceeds from today do go back to the Pulaski County Growth Alliance to continue to offer additional trainings and conferences like we've had today. So our next speaker coming up is Melissa Sharp, Wellness Coordinator for the Pulaski County Health Center. Melissa Sharp is the Wellness Coordinator. Oh, I was reading your title. I got ahead of myself. Anyway, she's the Wellness Coordinator for the Pulaski County Health Center, a certified running coach, ultra runner, blogger, and race director. Melissa also heads the Frog Fitness Group and is a HOKA flyer and ambassador for the Bass Pro Fitness Series, Midwest Endurance Race Company, and the Honoring Our Heroes Marathon. Melissa is passionate about fitness and helping the community through many programs she facilitates at what she tells everyone is the best job ever. Please welcome Melissa Sharp.
Thank you, Deborah. Wow, I am so glad to be here today, guys. Okay, so today we just had Pastor Sean. He was talking about mental health and the role it plays in overall wellness. And then pretty soon after me, we'll have Pastor Brett. He's going to come and talk about the spiritual aspect of it. But I know why I can't do anything. I don't have my glasses on. Sean, thanks. Golly, I'm like, why is that blurry? I can't see it. Anyway, so I'm going to be coming in the middle. I'm going to be kind of bringing the two together, and I'm going to be talking about physical health and the role it plays in overall wellness, but also how it's only part one of a three-legged stool that also includes mental health and spiritual health and being the best that you can be. So I'm going to be coming at this topic from the way I know best, from the perspective of an ultra runner and a longtime running coach who's completed more than 100 marathons and ultra marathons, including 7 100-mile races. As you can imagine, this is something that has required optimal physical health and endurance, but I will tell you that you can be in the best physical shape of your life, but it will mean nothing if your mental and your spiritual health aren't equally as fit. To illustrate this, I'd like to share with you what happened at the Grasslands 100 Trail Run in Decatur, Texas last month. So I knew going into the race that it was going to be a hard one. I knew when we got there, because of the rolling hills and the single track trails, which would put my physical training to the test. Because trust me, you can probably imagine this, but it's hard enough to run 100 miles without throwing hills and difficult terrain into the mix. But I had no idea just how mentally, physically, and spiritually taxing it would be once the forecast suddenly changed and the predicted weather rolled in. Unfortunately, this was one storm that the weatherman got right. Almost to the hour the rain was expected to arrive, the thunder began to shake the ground and the lightning began to fill the sky. And let me tell you, if you have ever seen an open plain in Texas, this is not a good place to be. All alone with more than 7 miles of open fields to conquer before I hit the next aid station, and then 7 more to make it back to base camp. I prayed. I was like, Lord, if this is not your will to take away the storm, please give me the strength to press on through it, because I knew I could not stay out there. It was expected to continue all through the night. But he did give me the physical strength. But thankfully, he gave me the mental and the spiritual strength as well, because physical strength alone would not have been enough to conquer these miles. You see, as the rains came down harder, this trail right here turned into that. And that's after it dried up a little bit. I can only describe this as it was like a slicker than snot, gooey axle type grease of mud, and it was beyond difficult to run on. And it was getting worse with it every minute. There were times when the rain was actually coming through the gullies, and you could see it just washing everything away. To get some idea of what it was like to stay upright in the middle of that muddy mess, and that's after 2. Picture trying to run on ice in the middle of a Missouri winter. It's just not going to happen. But this is the deal. No one was coming to my rescue. I either had to muster the strength to make it back to base camp, or wait until the directors realized I was missing and sent out a search party. And this is where the analogy of the three-leg stool comes back into play. As you can probably guess, I took several falls over the course of the 6 hours it took to complete the loop. Falls that I had absolutely no control over. Falls that would require extra physical strength to rise up from, because there was an absolute lack of footing. This would require using all 3 of the legs in rapid order. So you see, here's the deal. Physical strength can't be activated without the willful activation of the heart and mind first. What the mind thinks affects what the heart feels, which dictates what the body does. It's a chain reaction. With the pain of every fall, the mind had to make the quick and conscious decision to avoid going into an emotional state of unhappiness by choosing the joy of the Lord that comes from my personal relationship with God. Thus, having the physical strength to immediately keep getting back up each time I fell hinged on the strength of the other 2 legs. So now the 3-legged stool has been popular with milk farmers for centuries because it's an absolute wonder of physics. It's considered more stable than a 4-legged stool because it can sit stably on uneven surfaces as the ends of the 3 legs are always in the same geometric plane. A well-designed 3-legged stool also positions each of the legs equidistant from one another, with the 2 legs creating a perfect triangle. However, if one leg is pulled closer to the other, or one is made shorter or longer, or in this case stronger or weaker, the stool will become unstable. To expound more on how this relates to physical health, consider that every person has some degree of power over the state of their physical health, which means that while a person can't change their genetics, they can significantly reduce the risk of premature death and developing a disease or illness by engaging in healthy activities, such as regular exercise, taking in proper nutrition, and getting enough sleep. Deb and I were talking about that earlier. That's so underrated, but this needs to be done as part of a habit. Ironically though, actually doing these activities, especially over a long period of time, is directly tied to a person's will to do these. And this is where we get back to the stool. A person must have the mental strength to override the body's desire to be comfortable and to over-satisfy itself. For instance, the body will reject exercise and exertion in the beginning because of the feelings of pain and stress they bring. Starting an exercise program is hard. The body will also reject food limitations and swapping out unhealthy foods for healthy foods because we are a society that has grown comfortable consuming more than we need, which means changing eating habits is hard. And your mind will reject getting enough sleep because it would prefer the satisfaction it gets from watching Netflix and scrolling social media. Changing sleeping habits is hard. These habits are all hard to foster and grow because they require change, and change is uncomfortable, which is once again the reason the mind and the spirit first must be strong. Because as I said previously, physical strength can't be activated without the willful activation of the heart and the mind first. What the mind thinks affects what the heart feels, which dictates what the body does. It's a chain reaction. So what I always say, when this feels good, and the legs will continue to move. So now, in all of my years of coaching, I have coached a lot of runners. I've coached them from the 5K on up to the 100 Marathon, Boston, so I've come in contact with a lot of different people. But in all my years of coaching, I have found that the best way to get this chain reaction started is finding a sustainable and worthy why. And I know that's cliche. I know a lot of people say it, but it's true. It works in running and it works in life. Why you want to do something will determine your success. If getting physically fit to lose weight for your best friend's wedding or to look good in a bathing suit on your next cruise is your why, I'll be the first one to tell you, you might reach your goal, but you're not going to sustain it. However, if your goal is to get fit so you can live a longer, more productive life, free from the ailments that come from not taking care of your body, and to be an example to your children and your grandchildren, your chances are exponentially increased. You have a short-term reason and a long-term reason for making those healthy changes. And you're doing it for both yourself and for someone else. And you're doing it for people that you don't want to let down. So obviously, the more powerful your why is, the more willing you will be to develop the mindset that wants to achieve it. Add to that a spiritual reason, like wanting to honor God by taking care of the body He's blessed you with. And you're not only more likely to achieve the goal of living a healthy lifestyle, but much more likely to do it over a lifetime. So as someone who's made healthy living a lifestyle, I will share with you that my why is what gets me up at 5 o'clock every morning, even on the weekends. Had a disruption in plans, so I was up at 4 a.m. this morning, but it was a beautiful sunrise. It was worth it. This is why I set aside 3 hours every morning for Bible study, meditation, prayer, and exercise before getting ready for work. My why is, number one, because it feels good. It absolutely feels good. Movement has such profound effects on a person's mood that I arrive at my desk every morning with a smile on my face and abundant joy. Am I right, Deborah?
You're right.
Yeah, I'm a little over the top. But secondly, because I want to be an example to those around me. I want to show others that the benefits of a healthy lifestyle extend far beyond the numbers on a scale. I want to show others that movement is medicine for the mind, body, and soul, as is taking in whole, unprocessed foods and ample water. You know what one of the best parts about movement is? It helps you rest. And 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night also does wonders for the mind, body, and soul. There is joy and peace in movement. So I encourage you to find out your why today and to make one small change. I know it seems like it could be hard, but to make one small change that will lead to another and another and another that will set this chain of events into place. And I want you guys to remember, although I run 100-mile races now, I had to take that first small step many years ago in starting that chain reaction. And I had to work through a lot of pain and discomfort to gain the discipline to keep it going. But at the end of the day, that short-term sacrifice equaled that long-term gain, and you will reap the rewards of it. So, with that being said, I got 55 seconds left, showing them right on it. So, does anybody want to know if there was a happy ending to the Grasslands 100? Okay, I'm going to take my glasses off for that. Well, the answer is yes and no. No in the short term because I DNF'd, which that's considered a did not finish because the terrain was so bad I finished the loop, but I couldn't start the next loop because I could never make cutoff. So I had 38 miles under my belt, lots of scratches and mud, and I left the course with a smile on my face. But then, last Saturday, I decided, you know what, I need a little bit of redemption. So what's the greatest season for redemption? Easter. So my husband, Sweet Larry, and I on Saturday morning, I started at 6 a.m. and I finished sometime around, before noon the next day. It took about 29 hours. And we finished the run. I ran it solo, but I learned a lot. But most of all, I set out to complete what I had done, and we got it done. So I really hope that blessed you guys. And remember, start with that one small change.
Thank you, Melissa. I've always told her I'm glad running is her calling and not mine. So next up we have Pastor Brett Reith. He is the lead pastor here at Waypoint Methodist Church. He has served in ministry for over a decade and is passionate about inspiring people to grow in their faith and helping local churches thrive. He loves sitting around the table with friends, binge watching, and traveling with family. He currently serves on the Waynesville St. Robert Chamber of Commerce Board of Directors and is a student at Duke Divinity School in Durham, North Carolina. Please welcome Pastor Brett Reith.
Go Blues. Well, good morning. On behalf of the people of Waypoint, it is my joy and my privilege to welcome you to our campus today as we aim to offer this space to our community, to what we hope be an environment that promotes positivity, growth, and fostering a sense of community where we can build relationships with one another. Our conversation today, Nurturing the Spirit. If the past few years have taught us anything, it is that society can no longer ignore or minimize the value of tending to our mental health. In my field of work, theology, the Bible, pastoring, faith, I especially believe there is an urgent need to recognize that at the core of our overall well-being is the intrinsic relationship between mental health, spirituality, and faith. These aspects of our lives are deeply interconnected, shaping our experiences, our worldviews, and responses to life's challenges. By understanding this relationship, I believe we gain valuable insights into nurturing my approach to ministry, that is a holistic well-being. Spirituality is often a deeply personal and multifaceted aspect of the human experience. While it can and does encompass religious beliefs and faith practices, it extends well beyond organized religion, the walls of this building, to encompass a sense of connection to something greater than one's self. It involves exploring deep, profound questions of meaning, purpose, and transcendence. It's also a source of strength, comfort, and guidance. Spirituality is not a mere quest for solace in times of need. It is about cultivating a deeper connection with ourselves, with others, and with the divine. It acknowledges our vulnerabilities and embraces the full spectrum of human emotions. Every single person, whether it's recognized or not, has within them an existential need for the spiritual. Even those who may not feel the need to associate with organized faith and religion, which is increasingly what we find to be the case, even those individuals cannot separate from their innate spiritual yearnings. We are all spiritual beings with an intrinsic need to experience the sacred and the divine. At their core, both mental health and spirituality focus on tapping into a reservoir that nurtures inner harmony, perseverance, a sense of purpose. Studies have shown that people with a strong sense of spirituality often exhibit better coping mechanisms, lower levels of stress, and greater quality of life. Spiritual beliefs and faith practices can provide a framework necessary for making sense of life's complexities. They have a unique ability to foster a sense of hope and promote positive emotions such as love, compassion, and forgiveness, all of which are critical for maintaining good mental health. Spirituality is woven into the fabric of our very existence and everyday lives. It manifests itself in acts of kindness, compassion, and service to others as we wash the feet of both our neighbors and those who may be strangers. When we reach out to those in need, we not only uplift their spirits, but also nourish our own souls. In giving, we receive, and in serving, we find fulfillment and purpose. It's important, friends, to understand that the relationship between mental health and spirituality is not one size fits all. Each person's journey is unique and shaped by their personal beliefs, experiences, and cultural background. Respect for diversity of beliefs and practices is essential in promoting holistic well-being across diverse communities such as our own. It's also crucial to recognize the risk of over-spiritualizing, and that spirituality is not a universal cure for mental illness. While I believe, friends, hear this, that faith can and does provide invaluable support, it is also essential to seek professional help when it is needed. Just as we wouldn't hesitate to seek medical treatment for a physical ailment, we shouldn't hesitate to seek therapy or counseling for mental health challenges. For far too long, the intersection of mental health, spirituality, and faith, especially in my field of work, has been treated as taboo. Yet our spiritual journey is enriched when we acknowledge the importance of both faith and science in promoting holistic well-being. Let's watch this together.
I don't know if anyone ever explicitly said it, but the message I received was like, if you want to be a good pastor, you need to get a counselor. I want to say like the first time I met with her, it was checking a box. It was just saying like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I go, I meet with her. It's, pretty easy. Fill out this little questionnaire. And then my husband and I had been trying to get pregnant for a couple years at that point, and we had our first miscarriage. I was obviously just like a wreck at that point, and it was really hard for me I'd never been through anything like that. Infertility in general was really hard. I was struggling a lot, chopped off my hair, bought a rabbit, like you do. After 1 or 2 sessions, after the miscarriage, she said, there's something that we can do for people who've gone through trauma, and for all intents and purposes, like by definition, it was a very traumatic event, and it's called EMDR. And she said, if you're interested, we could do this. And I, like I said, was struggling, so I said, okay, let's do it. And I get there, and we settle in, and I hold my little things, and she says, okay, tell me about being a failure. I realized, like, that's what I've been talking about. What she heard me saying was how I had internalized failure, and how it wasn't just that this wasn't working out, but how I had failed and how I was a failure. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, that was it. I hope we don't say this out loud, but what the message that I think a lot of people here internalize is that you should be able to pray these things away. You should have more faith. You must be doing something wrong if you, feel like you need help with emotional things. I don't think you can be spiritually healthy without being emotionally healthy. And so with our second loss, I was so thankful that I could process the trauma and be able to grieve and to sit with the grief and to not like push it away or to be scared, be able to talk about it. The ways Christians get it wrong is just to not talk to anyone about it. For me, counseling has been a part of that, and being able to process my own story, my own experience, and then reach out to others. And it has helped me align my faith and my theological convictions with how I'm living. I think my faith has only gotten stronger, and I truly believe that God worked through her and put her in my life to give me some tools and ways to be able to do that.
We cannot be spiritually healthy without being emotionally healthy. Why? It's simple. The two cannot be separated. It is an integral part of the human experience. And as a clergy member of the Missouri Annual Conference of the United Methodist Church, and on behalf of this church, I join the goal of our conference's work to promote mental wellness, mental health wellness, to raise awareness around the issue and to find ways that it intersects with faith, theology, and spirituality. And I give thanks for the vulnerability of my colleague, Jennifer, a fellow Dukean, by the way, in Sykeston. Friends, may we strive to embark on this crazy journey that we call life together by fostering a culture of holistic well-being, by creating a world where every individual is valued and cherished, where no person even has to feel as though they need to suffer in silence, and where the light of faith shines brightly, guiding us through the darkest of moments in life. May we find strength in our spiritual beliefs, courage in our convictions, and compassion in our hearts. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Brett. So now we are going to take a short 15-minute break. Please, when you're out, we do have more sponsors. We have several wellness partners that also made this possible. I don't have the list. I'm afraid I'm going to miss somebody. So please look at that board out front. Make sure you thank all of our sponsors. We couldn't have done this without them. So take 15 minutes. We will come back just shortly after, a couple minutes after 11. And with our keynote speaker, you're not going to want to miss it. If you haven't found them, either bathrooms or just around the corner next to the fellowship hall.